What's going on, guys? Good evening. Welcome back to United View and welcome back to another episode of Trafford Talk. We are back. It is Thursday. It is 7 p.m. and we've got plenty to discuss in the world of Manchester United. Some positivity, some award nominations for Ruben Amorim and Brian Mbeumo. Jason Wilcox doing interviews as well, saying we're going to spend. We're still going to invest. We've got a strategy. There's a plan in place. Would you believe it? Martinez is back in first team training. We're going on to try and get our fourth consecutive Premier League victory on Saturday as well. Another bogey team, a bogey ground, the City ground, Nottingham Forest. There's plenty to discuss. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Big up to James from the Muppeteers. How have you been? How have you enjoyed this week so far? You still feeling the positivity from last weekend?
I feel great. You know, to some degree, I'm almost a little bit worried. And I've been having these debates a little bit back and forth because, you know, one of the reasons I've been even debating certain topics is because I feel as though the way that things are being talked about, should we lose again, which is possible, people are very ready to get the knives right back out, you know? And I don't mean to give the, you know, to be negative before it's due on this, because I'm not a negative guy. But during the international break, I think what I said was maybe we don't get so low during the losses and not so high on the wins because we're still going to be inconsistent. We're still going to lose games. We're still going to have struggles. It's just whether you can see that there's a light and that it's going in the right direction, because it's never a smooth ride. But I feel good in general. I think it's been a good week.
Yeah, it's been a good week, not only for Manchester United, but not for the ops as well, which also adds a nice sort of garnish to things. You know, seeing the downfall of Liverpool has been very enjoyable. Even City losing at the weekend, that was nice. And it does feel there is positivity. And I think you're right with that, because I suppose on both ends of the spectrum this week already, we've had nothing's really changed all that much. Yes, it's 3 wins and what have you. But like you said, what happens when the next loss happens? And then there's been the other end of the spectrum, which is we're in a title race, mate. We're in a title race. And you sort of go, wow, we love to get carried away either way, don't we? And then goes into the debate about tactics, which we'll save for another time because... Oh God, yeah, that's been one this week. The discussion about adaptation,
I'll leave it.
Me too. Me too. I've never been so happy to leave it.
I will tell you the fun part about that, though. I think it's if you've ever discussed politics with anyone, it's almost identical. Where you started is where you end on that discussion, and nobody's changing sides. Everybody's exactly where they were before.
I couldn't agree more with you with that. I think that's such a great comparison, because both sides are kind of actually doing the same thing, but the semantics are different. But it's essentially the same thing. You know what I mean? Which
100%.
is, I wasn't wrong. I was right. You're wrong. I'm right. You'll see, basically.
Completely correct.
And what's funny is that the arguments that are being had now are actually the same arguments that have been had this whole time. They're just reversed. It's just the other way. It's just the story's flipped, and it's like, it's funny because. But I think that is also, this is what's kind of been lost in it all, is that I think that is what is part of being a fan, isn't it? Is that there's no real right answer to any of those debates.
We don't know enough to say, do we?
No, exactly. And but it will go on. It will rage on. But then, speaking of Ruben Amorim and Brian Mbeumo, to be specific, but also the improvements in the Manchester United team, there's some nomination for some awards. Ruben Amorim was announced to be on the shortlist for the October Premier League Manager of the Month. In addition to that, Brian Mbeumo has been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Month. Mbeumo's on the shortlist with the likes of, who's he on there with? Matty Cash, Bruno Guimaraes, Erling Haaland. Who else is on there? Igor Thiago, Jurrien Timber. There's a Sunderland player. There's a Bournemouth player on there as well. Ruben, who's he on the shortlist with? It's Arteta.
It'll be Unai, Arteta, and well, I don't know who the other one is, but it will be one of those three who gets it. They're the only 3 undefeated managers in the month, I think.
Yeah, and also this is when it gets funny when it comes to these awards things, because then when they turn into a public vote like they do now, we win. we win.
You see all the posts of like, the things that crack me up the most, and I know they're so stupid, but like you see the post of like, Mbeumo loves Taylor Swift, and
BTS.
K-pop fans involved. I think it's too funny. I think that is absolutely hilarious. I don't think it actually does anything, but you never know.
You never know.
You could win it anyway, to be fair, but with our fan base, but still.
Exactly. But in terms of that, though, do you think that they're deserving winners if you compare them to the rest of the Premier League? Is there a legitimate argument for Ruben Amorim being the best manager in the Premier League for the month of October?
I think by strength of schedule in terms of the games that have been won, sure. Liverpool away, nobody's done it in a year. Brighton, Sunderland, what, are they third in the league still right now, or fourth or something like that? I mean, these are big wins, big performances, big games. United have scored the most goals. They have the best goal differential, 3 wins. Yeah, I think you can make the argument, especially, considering where we've been. That it's strong results-wise. It's a strong turnaround, and I think Unai has a decent case as well, because Villa started off the season really rough, but the performances haven't been as good as United's in these games. So, it depends how you see it. Like if you look at Villa as this underdog and United as this big team, it'll probably end up being Emery. But if you look at where the clubs have actually been over the last few years, it's probably more deserving to be going to Amorim right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think because the context, I think, is really important. So, like you say, it's the turnaround of, having your worst Premier League season ever, your worst start to a Premier League season ever. I know it's not, Premier League with the Grimsby game, but, you have things that happen that haven't happened ever happen to you. And just a month or so ago, we're talking about whether or not Ruben's going to last till this upcoming international break. Going into it, he might be holding up a trophy for being the manager of the month. Although it's quite funny because didn't Erik ten Hag get one right before he got sacked? Yes. I think it was like the September, October, one of the manager of the months he got. And again, that just goes to show the strength of the public vote. The strength of the public vote. But I do think Ruben and Erik are in completely different situations.
Very different situations,
Yeah, when it pertains on. But no, I think if Amorim got it, I think, again, this is I guess the thing that also gets lost in the whole has he adapted, hasn't he adapted conversation, which is the whatever way you slice it, he's been winning football matches. Man United have been winning games. We've been doing, I think we can all say whatever side you do stand on, that we've all just wanted Man United to pick up wins, win consecutive games, climb up the table. I think it does go to show, and this is what's so critical about the 3 wins in a row, hopefully 4 wins in a row, maybe 5, Frank gets a haircut. But with how this league is at the moment and how much you can go up and down based off a couple of games, if you can go on a run of like 4 or 5 games winning, that can set you up for a long time, I think, this season. Just having that stretch of games where you have good form, then inevitably when you do drop off, you can still be in a good place, which is what will probably happen to us, because at some point we are going to drop off. We are still a yo-yo side. And it's just a case, I suppose, of how long we can keep the run going for, really.
Yeah, it's a difficult league. Wins don't come easy for anybody. I mean, you look at, like you say, when you look at the fact that there's only 3 teams that have won 3 games, the last 3 games. That's quite unusual, I think. And only 3 have won 4 of the last 5. It's the same 3 teams. Nobody's doing it. Very few teams are winning consistently. You're not seeing, we used to look at it like that Liverpool and City, just 100 points every season. Boom, they're going to win every single game. And then 3rd and 4th are going to be on 80 points. Sometimes title winning form would only get you 3rd place during those seasons. And then in the bottom, it would be really, really bad out the bottom. It's very dense between 5th and 15th, in there, where it's a few games. You're always a few games off. So if you do get a decent run of form, I think you can separate yourself from the pack. If United were to win, another 4 out of the next 5, I think they'd end up 6-8 points clear of 8th. They'd be quite up there in the top 6, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I was just checking out the table and looking at the form, and it's only Arsenal that are more informed than us, I think, if you look at it in terms of the last 5 games.
They've won 4 in a row, right?
Yeah.
No, 4
points
wins
being
in 5, but they won 4 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and one of them was the last one as well was a draw. So the last 5 there, 4 out of 5 plus a draw.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at people like even Bournemouth in second, 2 wins, the rest have been draws. So again, we're bang on it in terms of our form, in terms of recent results. Absolutely bang on. And again, you cannot argue against that. But then this is when it gets back into, like you say, not getting too carried away, because even now, the top 4, as we're talking at the moment, is Arsenal, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Sunderland. It will not end up like that. Like there is just no way it will end up like that. But I suppose you have to set yourself up in a position just to be in and around it, when the time comes that it does start to settle, right? I think that's probably where we're at. And then in terms of Mbeumo being nominated for Player of the Month for October, I mean, even without like the strong public vote that he's probably going to win that award, I think there's a fair argument to be said that he's been the best player in the league in October. I mean, who else could you argue really that's on that list? Haaland, goal scoring record, maybe.
Haaland's got so many goals, as part of it. How many goals does Haaland have? He's got the same number. He's got 3. Brian has 3 and assist, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So technically, Brian's got more goal contributions and 3 wins. So compared to 2 wins and a loss, and that loss at the end does affect that Player of the Month voting. It usually does. It's usually the best player on the team that has the best record. And right now, you feel like it should be Mbeumo, and I think he has the strongest case for it as well.
Yeah, and it's not just necessarily about goals and assists, is it? I mean, it should be about overall performances, importance to the team. I think there's a really fair argument to be said. Look, if Bryan Mbeumo isn't involved in those last 3 games that we had, they could all look very, very different. That's how critical he is already to Manchester United. I mean, we've seen out of that front 3 that was purchased in the summer of Šeško, Cunha, and Mbeumo, the one that is the most integral to us already is Bryan Mbeumo. Like we've seen Cunha come out of the team through injury, and not that we haven't missed him, but you can get in a Mason Mount there. It's okay. Benjamin Šeško, obviously, he wasn't fit when he came in, so he was in and out of the team. He's not picked for the big game against Liverpool. We put in a really impressive performance. So not that they're replaceable, but we've got, I think, proper alternatives to them. Bryan Mbeumo, we're talking about when AFCON comes around, we can't replace him. We're just going to have to sort of grin and bear it and hope that we can kind of get through it. It's mad, isn't it? I mean, that shows it's important.
It is. It's going to be difficult. And it's not like we don't have some options, because Bruno can move up and Mount can play, and maybe Shea Lacey can get in there. And maybe that's when Joshua Zirkzee can start to get minutes. I think Ruben says, about AFCON, he said, well, there's players I see in training that should be playing, just not enough games. So there's players that didn't get their chances, but certainly it's hard to look at it and say, Mbeumo's been just so fundamental as that in the way that he's playing too, not just because he's been good, but because who's going to bring the kind of pace, the outlet, the one-on-one dribbling? You're not going to, even if it's Bruno or if it's Mount, I really like them. They've been good. If it's Zirkzee, they're not the same player. They're totally different, even regardless of quality. And so you have to wonder how that's going to change things. But I think certainly, I mean, maybe you could make an argument Lomans has been equally as important in the time that we've seen him. But at goalkeeper, of course. But
rate.
100%
win rate, mate.
He's come in.
Since he's come in, because that's also been one of the weird. To circle back to the adaptation thing, that's been the other weird sort of aspect to it, which is the argument that basically it's all exactly the same. Lomans has just been dropped in, and that effectively was the missing piece that made everything work. Which again, this is when it gets into, this isn't the popular answer and it's not the satisfying answer. That is a valid point, but it's not the entire explanation. You know what I mean? Whereby him being put in there clearly makes a massive difference. You know what I mean? In terms of shot stopping, he prevents the goal against Brighton. We go up the other end, score, make it 3-0. Totally different game if it gets to 2-1. Shows his importance. I think in terms of going direct, like Amorim has gone to, Mark Critchley wrote about this in The Athletic, which I think is really true, that I do think there was a desire to go as direct as possible with Onana and Bayindir. Maybe they weren't as good at executing it or doing it as much as he wanted to. Lomans is.
They definitely
you know
couldn't execute it. That's for sure. I mean,
exactly.
when Onana would kick it long, it was practically like you might as well just hand it to the opposition because it was a throw in or it was it was directly to the other team. And so, it's hard to debate and go back and forth on these things. But certainly Lomans, I think one of the first things that Amorim talked about with him was him being able to kick with both feet that he didn't have with other keepers. So it's easier to get it out of there under pressure to go over the top of the press because you can just go to either side and they can't really press you in that way. And you can kind of suck them in and press and then smash the ball up the pitch to your big players. But, it's also like everybody's doing that against Liverpool for what it's worth. Right? Every single team in football is going long against Liverpool because they're so bad at it now. And it's been quite exposed. But no, I know it's a bit of a circular debate, but there's a lot of but Lomans has been fundamental. I mean, skill sets of players provide you with at least choice. So maybe you started making different choices, and I think we can see that United are making different choices in game, but they probably couldn't make those choices before Lomans was there. So maybe it looks different, maybe it's instructive, maybe it's just there's more opportunities once you have better players to do different things and take less risky approaches. I think it also helps that United have been getting leads early on because it's a different game when you're trying to protect the lead versus having to chase goals and chase the game.
Yep, no, I totally agree. And I think the best word there's been, adapt, tweak, change. And I think the best one is the most appropriate one is probably evolve. I think that the Premier League at Manchester United, football, it's in this weird flux of evolution, I think, at the moment. I think we're seeing in the Premier League, obviously, there's been a focus on set pieces for years in the Prem, but now it feels like we've hit sort of the extreme of it. Man United, like with Ruben Amorim, I think there's been a desire to go direct. And now, like you say, now because maybe he's got extra players, they can evolve into doing a bit more what he's looking for. I think that in terms of Lomans being someone that can claim crosses, what a perfect time for him to come in when there is such a heavy focus on set pieces, right? If we had Bayindir and Onana in net now, we saw it, didn't we? Every time they had a set piece, the opposition, we would get worried because Bayindir's going to flap, Onana's going to come out and punch someone. Like Lomans, he's just going to come up and catch it, and that nullifies the whole thing. So I think he's the right keeper at the right time for that, certainly. And like I said, just in general, football. I think football's gone away from the Pep tiki-taka,
Even Pep's gone away from it. So
yeah, exactly. I think those days are kind of done. And I'm so glad because it's just that's not my style of football.
Boring.
It's not
it was
for me.
really boring.
It's boring.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I used to... Like the whole Arsenal City games that were like these big rivalry games, I swear to God, they just put me to sleep. It was so boring.
Yeah. Or watching like Spain play, I mean, I know get obviously like Xavi and Iniesta, obviously unbelievable players. Fabregas, you can go on Busquets, but I just found it quite dull. You know what I mean? That kind of suffocate the team to death. I don't know. I just not for me.
I like the way it's going. I like the way it's going a lot.
Like
it's much more fun. It's more classic. It's more. I feel like we're seeing more of players expressing themselves again, and we're seeing more of like some of the brilliance that you want to see. Some of these incredible moments, and I think maybe for the first time in a long time, United are like zagged at the right time. You know what I mean? Like they've actually gone with. They've maybe got a flow ahead of it, the way they're building, and even the manager they've selected fits the current. The way he played at Sporting is the same. It really does fit the way football's going in this very direct, high transition, high fast attacks type of approach. Might be the right time.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and that's what I mean with Lomans. I think he's the right keeper for us at the right time. Particularly considering his skill set. So we'll see what happens when it comes to those awards. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Someone mentioned it in the chat. Someone mentioned about left centre backs. This is what it was. Martinez. He's now back in training. Obviously, Luke Shaw has been our left centre back this season. James, of course, you famously put your Kev coins on the Luke Shaw starts. Leach, he's not going to be involved at the weekend. Amorim said as much today, but the general feeling is November, he's going to be involved in those games. Look, it's the end of the month tomorrow, so maybe as quickly as next weekend, just before the international break, perhaps, or maybe after the international break. That might be part of the plan. Time will tell.
We really have
but now that,
like only tomorrow and then one more week, and then we have
I
another
know.
break. That's
exactly. And then I found it funny, that report that was it last week when United were writing to like the FA, go, we've got a lot of midweek games coming up soon, or something like that. I was thinking, it's about time, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be nice. I can't wait,
for
honestly.
us to have some midweek games. What do you think happens though when Leach gets fully up to speed? What do you think happens with him and Luke Shaw? Is it going to be difficult to work his way back in because Shaw's consistent, it's available, it's one game a week, there isn't the need to rotate? I mean, I'm sure he subs the two wide centre backs every game, or even near enough, so Leach will get on. But what do you think happens in terms of when he's going to start games?
I think they'll be really careful with him. I mean, the thing to just bear in mind is, like we've seen with Rodri coming back from ACL injuries and things like that, it's not always really a smooth progression back into the team. And we've seen Ruben be really careful in managing injuries and things like that. And even the extended timeline of November, months ago, people were saying, well, he'll be back in August or September. And we've given it extra months and extra time and extra everything. So I think we'll start to see him on the bench. I think we'll start to see him maybe come on for a few minutes here and there. And then maybe during the festive period, when it does start to get busy, we actually do have a few back-to-back, 3-game aparts, he'll start to get a few starts mixed into there. But the thing I would say about it is that the system does ask a lot. If you look at what Shaw did against Brighton, it asks a lot of the center-backs. And so I think they're going to be pretty careful with Lissandro. And I'm not trying to, I guess, be negative on Lissandro, but we do have to be a little bit. It's a tough system. It requires a lot of work to be very aggressive. He's had 2 really serious knee injuries in 2 years, and he's been out a long time. Like, the possibility that he comes back, I'm not saying he'll lose like things he can do with the ball, the quality of progression, but the odds that he can come back and athletically keep up, it could be a while. It could be quite a long time, on that front, because it's different from playing to be able to play at the highest level that is necessary for a system that asks a lot of the center back when he was already not the most athletic. So I'm trying to keep my expectations low, because otherwise I think people will be expecting the world from him, and then it might be a little slower and difficult for him to get back into the flow of things.
I was going to say the picture of him walking onto the training ground today, a lot of people actually zoomed into his knee, and the amount of like scars he's got on that knee is incredible. Like, could you forget like what the injury he had last year was just one of several like big ones he's had over the last 2 or 3 years. Like, his time at United has largely been dominated by injury, right? Towards the end of Ten Hag's first season, it was the foot, which just like never went away. And then even when he came back from that, I think he had a knee problem. We thought it was bad. It was only 6 weeks. And then he gets back for the FA Cup final and plays that last season. And it took a while to get going. And it was like, oh, is he put on a bit too much weight after the injury? Does he not look fit and up to pace? And even when Ruben came in, I remember the discussions about Leach going, I don't think he can do it in a back three. He
had a tough start to the season.
Yeah.
I remember this games like against Porto away. He was getting ripped up because he just couldn't run at the pace that, in those spaces and such.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I remember for the longest time, the conversation was, he should play at left back. He started as like a left back early on in his career. And I think he played there against like City in the Community Shield, and he just couldn't do it. Like he just couldn't, because he looked awkward, and like you said, the athleticism wasn't there. But then that was so unfortunate with the timing of the injury. Is just when he got hurt is when he started to feel like he was settling in how he knew how to play. He
just got going. He had like goals. He was scoring goals. He was winning games, like
assists against City as well, and he just got going. So that was really unfortunate. But I did see this, what I thought was an interesting comment today about it. Since we're talking about the evolution of football and focus on set pieces, direct balls, is that a cause for concern with Leacher? Because obviously I know there's always the chatter about his high Jamie Carragher special, but is that a legitimate cause for concern now?
I mean, it has to be to a degree, right? And it's not like being insulting, but it's just one of those things you have to discuss. Like, people have made a lot out of Harry Maguire playing in a high line. Well, Lisandro's not a very fast player either. He's so good on the ball. He's not very fast, but Maguire makes up for that to a degree because he's so good defending corners, set pieces, all of those things. You kind of get a balance there where all right, we're going to go small. We're going to go a little slower, but we got a really big guy. With the way football's going, it's a little hard to say, can we have a slow and small center back? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. And it's like, if you can keep the ball, I think what Lisandro can do is unbelievable. It's best of anybody in the back three for sure. Back five, really. But, and it can work. But, like in that game against City, we were sat pretty deep in that game. And City aren't really known for the set pieces in that respect anyway. Against teams that play very physical, we've seen some. It is a bit of a concern. I mean, I wouldn't say Shaw is exceptional on set pieces either. To be fair, so it's like one or the other. But honestly, I think we'll end up with a new left center back by next season anyway. In the long term, I think we're going to get someone new, regardless. And just to say.
Yeah, because if you look at the two people that are there controlling that position, Luke Shaw, who I think everyone's open is, they're both kind of the same, aren't they, Luke and Shaw, in the sense of if they're fit and available, clearly they have stuff to offer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Technically on the ball, they can progress, they can build up, they can step out of defense. Yep. You don't have to worry about them too much. But the fact that you have to have that if they're available for both. And look, Leach is in that category now. I remember Kenny, bless him, right when the start when Leach got his first injury a couple of years ago was like always injury prone. It's too harsh. Can't say that. Hey, you spot on, Leach. You know what I mean? Because if he gets another injury, then we're looking at it going, we're gonna have to cut loose. You know what I mean? Same with Shaw, right? So
I mean, we've never had more than 7 months from him, right? Really, like we've never had more than that, and it's been 3.5 years. So.
Exactly. And then what happens with Aiden Heaven once you've got sort of 3 left centre backs available? I mean, Heaven came on, got an assist at the weekend. I mean, I know he kind of almost shares that assist with Bruno, but still, he's shown his ability. What happens then with Leach and Shaw when if they're both fit? What happens with Aiden Heaven? So I think there's a lot of headaches there. But one thing I don't think happens is I know some people are like, does that mean Luke Shaw goes to left wing back? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think you say
it's one of the reasons he's not getting hurt, right? Is that he's putting him in a position where he's not sprinting 90 minutes like up all the way. He's going to stay where he is.
Yeah, exactly. Even when it's like, his pomp, was he really that sort of left back gets really up and down a lot? I don't feel like he always was.
He liked to attack and in the final third do well, but he wasn't like a flying wing back.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. Crosses from deep, an occasional overlap, you know what I mean? But not that sort of fullback that's up and down, up and down, up and down. That's never his thing anyway. So in terms of the wing back, no, I don't see that. But Leach, he's back in training. It's just a case of when he's going to be back in the squad. Probably not on Saturday. Maybe for the trip to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium prior to the international break. We shall see. If you haven't already, click the like button. Where are we at in terms of likes? Let's see if we can get to 200 likes, 250. And of course, be sure to subscribe to United View if you haven't already. I want to talk about Jason Wilcox. He did a surprisingly in-depth interview that kind of came out of nowhere of just like, talking very openly about the plan and about his desire to spend money and what we've got to do if we're going to catch up with the other teams. Of course, this comes after a summer of spending over £200 million on the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo, Šeško, Lomans also involved in that spending. Here are some quotes that he said. He said, quote, "We've got a clear plan. We know what we've got to do. We know there are areas of the team we've got to improve. For us to get in the top 4, to consistently challenge for Champions League places and win at Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, we've got to invest in the squad and buy the right players who are talented, but can also deal with the pressure and who can take the squad forward. It's not always about signing elite talent. They have to have the right character and can bring something to the team. We're really happy with where we are. We know we've got to improve. The players, they'll never be satisfied. Ruben will never be happy. I'll never be happy. It's just how we're built. We're always looking to improve. Anybody who works at Manchester United should be thinking the same, and they do with the standards we're driving every day." And I thought they were quite interesting comments there. First of all, he's saying, look, we're going to continue spending money. So you don't have to worry about, summers or even winters, I suppose, like we've had in the past, where there's this only desire to invest to get us back into a Champions League spot. And then this desire to, well, let's see how it plays out and not spend money unnecessarily. Now they're saying, look, it's not just enough to get into the Champions League places. We need to constantly invest. So I think maybe that's quite interesting for January. I mean, I know you've mentioned this quite a few times. With the way the summer ended and the way actually from a PSR perspective, we're actually in pretty good shape, certainly the best shape we've been in for a while financially from that perspective. I don't think we can rule out a January, a big bit of January business, can we?
No, we certainly can. I think the biggest problem we'll have in January is finding willing sellers. Like, what does it take to get someone out the door? Because obviously the other thing we've seen is, while they want to invest and they want to spend, they've also been very smartly disciplined, in terms of the prices, where they're not going to go and say, well, we like this guy at 70, and someone says, well, it's January, so you're going to pay 110. Then they're not going to buy him. They're just not going to do it. They won't go in crazy with that. But they're absolutely willing to go spend in January. They have money. They have the ability to do so. They also have the knowledge that, could it help us? There's the long-term plan, which we certainly have. That is like, finish the squad, the long, big picture of it. And I think if they can sign someone in January, it's going to be somebody as a part of that long-term plan. We're not going to be looking at short-termerism or panic signings or things like that. But you also have to consider, and I'm sure they are, if you can get one of those long-term guys in January, and that pushes you up that little bit extra to get into Champions League, money literally becomes a non-issue at this club. Like, that's how well the finances have been dealt with. United back in Champions League, we can do a Liverpool, not that it's worked out for them, but we can do these kinds of windows if we need to, to finish the team, to get it to to the standard we want it to be. So it might be worth bringing it forward into January, but no, I think they're ready. I think they're looking at it. I mean, it's November and he's talking about, we need to invest more. I'm sure they're looking right now at it, and they know that they need a few positions. They know they need to add somebody. They know that, one injury to Casemiro, we might be in real trouble at the moment, or to Bruno, or whatever, right? So they know we need these things. I would be more surprised if we don't try to sign a midfielder in January than if we did. Like, I'd be much more surprised if we didn't try at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's going to be really interesting. I mentioned this a few weeks ago that I think Ineos have an opportunity to show a real sign of intent in January, because we're so accustomed to us not really doing business. Sometimes, even like last season, obviously I know we signed Dorgu, but in terms of like a game-changing sort of signing or someone that's going to really affect results or outcomes, Dorgu is never going to be that anyway, and he's a young player. He's still got a way to go. It's going to be really, I think, you'll be able to judge how serious Ineos are taking things by, if there is an opportunity that presents itself in January that they believe, like you say, can make the difference of like, right, that can go secure us Champions League football. It goes back to a bit like that argument when it was about Ruben's future a few weeks ago, when they said, well, if Ineos and the hierarchy at Manchester United are concerned that they're going to miss out on European football, then, like you said, it becomes a bit of a non-issue, the amount of money that it would take to get rid of someone. So it works the other way as well. It becomes a non-issue of how much it would cost to get them, because the money's so big of qualifying for Europe that you already make it back twofold, immediately. So if they do feel like someone that fits into the vision can get us into the Champions League, then if we've got the capability to do it, then we'll probably do it. But like you said, it's just a case of, there's still the desire of, like we saw with Mbeumo in the summer, like we kind of saw with Šeško as well, and even to an extent with Lomans, when Antwerp kind of moving the goalposts a little bit, to use the pun there. If it's not the right package, though, then they probably won't take it. If they do feel that there is a club there that is taking the piss, a bit like that. Again, the Mbeumo one, the more you hear about what sort of went on behind the scenes with that in the summer, it's almost a bit remarkable that we ended up getting him. The amount of outside people that were telling him not to go to United, basically go to Spurs, choose the other option. We can make more money out of this. You can maybe, get more money, and him just go, no, I've given my word. I'm going to go to Man United. So it's going to be interesting to see again if Ineos do make that that step in January. I agree with you. I think they'll try. I think they'll certainly try. It depends on the market. It depends who's available.
Yeah.
I don't think they would do what maybe prior regimes would have done, which is, all right, we want to get in the Champions League. What, this person's available? Well, we weren't really thinking of him, but let's just get him in anyway. Let's see if we can make that work. I don't think they'll do that. And then I also thought what was interesting with what he said, saying that obviously the right players that they want to bring in are players who are talented, but can also deal with the pressure and take the squad forward. It's not always about signing elite talent. They've got to have the right character and can bring something to the team. And I'm glad that he says that, that he said that. I think this past summer is very reflective of that, going that it was almost like character came first with all of these signings. Character came first. Do you want to join Manchester United? Then kind of come second. And then thirdly, it's about, all right, price. What does it look like? How well, does their name translate in terms of, everything else that comes with it? Because you look at those signings, and Mbeumo, right character. You look at Cunha, right character. Šeško, even already, for some reason, he's getting stick from the middle, which I don't get, but I think he's the right character.
Me too.
Lomans is exactly what I think what you're looking for from a goalkeeper after having Onana, which is just the lowest key guy you can possibly get.
The lowest key possible, yeah.
But right character, because we know that Manchester United goalkeeper, that's a pressure position if there is.
Oh, he's answered that question already, hasn't he, with the games he's had to be in? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. So I think that's really interesting that it's this kind of desire to go for sort of character firsts. And I'm assuming, given the success of these signings, that will probably continue in January and next summer.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think it speaks to an interesting question about, like, does that mean, obviously I think the Premier League proven aspect of it is something that they will strongly consider, because they've heaped a lot of praise on how Cunha and Mbeumo have been able to get going right away. Him and Amorim have spoken about that, about guiding these guys from the Premier League. They get it. They understand the pressure. They understand the league. They adapt quickly. They're able to push you forward. Well, I think in January, that could be even more important. You could see with Dorgu, like, he needed more time. He still needs more time to adapt. He's a young player. You can go get a talent. You look at some of the names that come up, like Angelo Stiller, and you're talking about, I don't know that they'll look at a player like him and say, yeah, we'll bring this young kid from Germany mid-season, and it's good, and he's going to make an impact in January. Like, that's not a January signing. Bruno, for example, though, when he was signed, even though it was a different group, the character level you had from him being captain, all the things that he brought to the table that were visible, you kind of thought, yeah, he can have an impact. But even then, what's really funny is he got 3 months off from COVID to kind of settle into life in Manchester before the games actually picked up. And who knows if he would have kicked on in the way that he did so quickly if you didn't get this odd interruption to the season that kind of came in there that really threw a wrench in things. Because United before and after COVID were actually, like, significantly different.
Like you said, like, it's a really good point, because there were hints of it just before everything shut down, because obviously there was the City game at Old Trafford. That was one that people point to, and they'll go, like, obviously Bruno was involved in that goal and it was a great feeling. But you're right, but then there was this period of time where it was like 3 months, and we had injuries at the time. I think like Pogba and that were injured, and they all came back, and then it was good timing. But it even goes to show, like you say, even the best players do require a bit of time to settle in. And you're right, it's what Wilcox said in the interview. He said the guys have settled in really quickly, especially when you look at Matthias and Brian. They've played in the Premier League and have lived in England, so there's a quicker transition. For Benji and Senna, they've transitioned really well. We're really pleased. They're 2 young players, 2 for the future, but they've settled in amazingly well. They're all good guys, even from last summer's window. They're top professionals, top players. We've just got to turn it into results now. Oh, yeah. But if you say that, Wilcox added, I think we've plugged in some really talented players who create and score goals. But when you score goals, it's not just about the front guys. It's the way we build up. It's the idea. Ruben works with the players every day on the idea and how to create chances. When we look at the amount of chances we're creating, we're now starting to convert, but we've got to keep it going. So I thought, again, I watched the interview as well. I thought he spoke really well. I thought he looked the things he said really well. It's funny with, again, how, wins change the context of everything, because I it was just a couple of weeks ago. It was, look, Jason Wilcox not qualified for this position, and now some of the signings we've made in the summer are looking pretty good. He's had a really good window. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, 4 out of 4. He's perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. Omar with the super chat says, shout out to James, who deserves his October award for not panicking when we had a slow start and remained calm based on the metrics. Well, I would agree 95% with that. 95.
Yeah.
I think James is quite fortunate. When he had his meltdown, it was only in text form prior to, was it Sunderland? Was it the Sunderland game?
I think it was after, it was maybe after Brentford, or it was before Chelsea even, or something like that. I just
the team news came out and there was a considerable amount of concern, wasn't there? There was a considerable amount of concern. And there was, it might have been Chelsea. I think it might have been
Chelsea.
It was
before Chelsea, actually. So it was actually not in October, to be fair. But
exactly,
but no, look,
exactly.
it was. And the biggest thing that I had at that time was the selection. So the biggest thing that frustrated me was especially Ahmad. And I have to say, I think, and the keeper. Ahmad and the keeper were 2 things I was like, this is getting ridiculous. They just have to play. And to be fair, it was absolutely correct. I mean, Ahmad and Lamens have started every single game we've now won. And they didn't against Brentford the last time we lost. And, they didn't against City in the right positions. And I think that was correct even. And it seems that I would say would be the thing I would suggest Ruben's changed the most, is being maybe a bit braver with the team selection or something. Maybe it's bravery. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But he's made those choices and it's working. And we've seen the most consistent team selection now for the last few weeks too. Less chopping and changing. The front three's moved a little bit, right? Like it was Mount and Cunha, and then it was Cunha and Šeško. But besides that, it's barely changed. And I think that's also a sign that things are going the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny here. Scaliano says, I had my meltdown post Grimsby. S. Madison says, I had a meltdown when I saw Maguire, Dalot, and Shaw starting versus Liverpool. I think it just goes to show, and this is what's funny about the last week. I think if everyone's being honest with themselves, and I mean really honest, it's different for you and I, James. We're on here all the time. People remember what we say. There is video, 4K. You can't really run away from it. But I guarantee you, most people, even the staunchest Amorim defenders, they had their moments. Because I think everyone has their moments. You know what I mean? Everyone has their moments where, I don't know, or that team news comes, I don't know about that, or this result, or certain substitutions, you go, I'm not sure about that, and I think that's totally fine. I mean, I think one thing I've been defending Amorim about this week is I feel like he's maybe been a bit harshly criticized on the whole substitutions thing, with Cobby and Xerxes and what have you, because I do think he's in a bit of a catch-22 situation there, because I think it's entirely logical from him to think, right, we are 3-0 up. It is, what is it, around 60, 70 minutes, something like that in the game. I can take players off like Ahmad, like Casemiro, and bring on players that I'm looking to give minutes to because they're rusty, like Cobby, like Xerxes. And they look rusty, but then when else is he supposed to give them minutes? Right?
Yeah, what else is he going to do?
When is the optimum time to do that? It's 3-0 up. Yeah. You play 1 game a week. You're at home.
It's a home, like
it didn't feel like there was any jeopardy in that match. I don't think even he or nobody could have thought, right, we're going to bring Cobby and who came on for Ahmad in the end? Was it Dorgu? And then Dalot switched over? I think he probably was.
Yeah.
And then, they're going to we're going to concede 2 goals. But I do think he would have learned from it of, all right, maybe I can't make that many substitutions, or, okay, maybe I don't take this player off, because when it comes to Cobby, I think it's fascinating that he makes that sub and then 10 minutes later he goes, nope, not working. Ugarte, you come on. Well,
it's funny because game 1, he was ripped for subbing Ugarte on for Casemiro, right, against Arsenal. Like, why isn't it Cobby coming on? Different game state, obviously, but he was that was a big deal. And then he I think this was the first time, he tried to put Cobby next to Bruno when we were defending a lead. Did not work at all. No. And he was like, all right, no, Ugarte, get on the pitch, go, break up some play and move Cobby forward a bit more. And so, I do think he would have learned a little bit from that experience, but it's also like, these guys got to take some responsibility where it's not the manager in that case. And it's like, you got to come on and manage the game. That's what you're there to do. Come on and manage the game. And And I think Xerxes was maybe especially disappointing because as a player who wants to be fighting for minutes, and something like what happens on a corner like that, it's all about focus. It's all about, just being present in the moment and
he looked
not losing
really
sight.
rusty. He looked really rusty when he
did.
came on as well. And I do feel like, again, I sympathize with him a little bit because I do think he's a player that to get the best out of him, he has to play pretty regularly, and he's not an impact player because we saw that with him last season. His best form comes after Christmas when he had that very difficult start to the season. Then he started playing more consistently as really Højlund fell out of favor more. And then Xerxes starts playing, and then suddenly we're like, actually, you know what? His link-up play is pretty good, and he's got this to offer. But he's not that player that can go out with the team for like 3 or 4 weeks, come in after 60 minutes and make a difference. I just don't think he's that, which I then think spells danger for him anyway, for his United future. I think we didn't buy him for all that much. The book value is probably pretty low on him, right, as well. I think if a decent offer came in January, I think United would absolutely consider it. Why wouldn't they?
Well, he's not the backup striker, is he? It's Cunha. So he's not really got a position in this team. So I think they would sell him,
And then it's just a case of where would he go? And then I suppose if United do sell him, plus the positive PSR position, plus the squad depth, then we would have to go and sign someone in January because our squad can't handle that, especially with AFCON, right?
Yeah. No, they have to, and I would love to see him go. I mean, I know obviously he's just scored against us, but I'd love to see United bring in someone like Danny Welbeck in an attacking position. I mean, why not? Well, why not? I'm not saying it's like to replace Xerxes. Not like that's the plan. The plan is the long term. Get a midfielders. That's probably
just been talking about the long term, the plan. Did they fit the plan? Go get Danny Welbeck as the 35.
But I think that's a little different because it's like you can see that they're recognizing too the potential need for some experience to not lose all the experienced players in the team. Danny Welbeck's still a very good player and can give you some key minutes when you need it. And obviously it's like within reason. You don't go buy an old player. We're not going to do what we did before. We're not going to go do a Ronaldo and go 600,000 a week on a on an older player or anything like that. But certainly if we were selling someone like Xerxes, just some experienced player would be nice. At the same time, I'd certainly rather we just go say, hey, why don't we just go get Semenyo? He can play across the entire front five and, spend big money. I prefer that. It's just happen. I don't think that's going to that's going to be difficult.
But that is the weird one with Semenyo though, isn't it? Because I saw, was it the other day? And they were like, oh, Man United did actually put a bid in, but Bournemouth rejected it. Like, is that real?
They did want him. Yeah, they really did want him. They really, really did. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But where would he play? I can't lose. Are we saying he's going to be a wing back?
Why not? Like, it's sort of a funny discussion because people take it like almost as an insult, but look at Ahmad. Like, I think he's our most important player in most games at this point with what he's doing there. We look so bad without him. With the dynamic that he brings to the table. Semenyo this season's been playing. I mean, what's the difference? Honestly, at times, like what's the difference at times between a wing back and a hardworking winger? Like when we had wingers and we were playing 4 at the back and Rashford and Garnacho didn't defend deep, we used to give them a rash of shit and everybody was getting on their back about not coming back in defense. Well, I know it's a bit more defending in a wing back position, but at the same time, like if you look at his heat map for Semenyo this season, probably looks like what we want Dorgu's to look like if we could choose. It's probably where we want to be, and how much having an attacking threat like out wide when it's not Dalot or something like that, how much does that influence the defense to let you run at them and to get more at them? I don't know, but at the same time, it's like depth. He could play at the left 10 if Cunha was out for whatever reason. He had a little injury. He could play at striker if Šeško wants to be rotated. He could play at the right 10 if Mbeumo needs a break, and he could play at right wing. You could put him in any 5 positions. He's that flexible of a player to me with his athleticism and all of that. So it would be nice to have some people like that in the team. And I think more next season, when we have these 2 games a week, we'll look at the squad and go, guys,
When?
Cunha and Mbeumo can't play every game. Yes, when? Yes, when?
When? That's very confident. Drop that one in. No, when? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. No problem.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I agree. I mentioned this on Saturday during the game, or when the team news was coming out. For a system that does have wing backs, we still do have a shocking sort of lack of wing backs in that position. We've got a lot of
wide players,
who can play out wide, but if you're still probably going Amad's a true wing back in terms of, like you say, not a full back that's being converted to play there. He feels like someone that can obviously offers going forward, gets goals, gets assists. I think defensively he's getting a lot better as well. He's looking much more reassured defensively, which would have been a thing against him in the past. But then you go in, what, Dorgu, Dalot, they're still fullbacks playing at wing back. And I think the future for Dalot is probably out at United, but that's not going to happen. So the future for him would probably be like a right centre back or something like that, perhaps. We still need wing backs. We still need wing backs in on both, because it would be nice, wouldn't it? We're talking about Amad coming off, and maybe that's because he runs himself into the ground every single game. But then it would be good to be able to bring on a similar style of player, wouldn't it? It would be nice to be able to bring on another wing back, or like I said, when we've got those 2 games a week to have going, right, Amads can play on that Champions League game on a Wednesday or a Tuesday. Is he going to be up for it again to play at that at the weekend in the Premier League? Or we've already got someone similar to play in that position, and we're not just going to be playing those 5 defenders, because whenever we do, we struggle. So that'll be interesting to see, I think, come January as well. Do they go for, a wing back, particularly with obviously the damage that we know that AFCON is going to do, because our right-hand side, which is our most dangerous side at the moment, it's going to get obliterated. It is. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to know, actually, what conversations are being had about that, because you would think a smart strategy would be, okay, let's do some work now. Let's see who's out there. Can we do anything now?
I think the next break and afterwards, we'll start to see some of that preparation. Like, do we see Dorgu go play on the right a bit more, so you're getting that left footer like Ahmad has? Do we see, someone like Shea Lacey make his way into the squad a little bit here and there to be ready to? I don't think he'll start or anything, but to be able to come off the bench here and there during AFCON. Do we see little adjustments like that maybe prep us so it's not such a dramatic thing? Do we actually sub Mbeumo off because he plays every second of every game, which he did last season too? He's that kind of guy. But, we probably need to see a few of those things after the next international break. I think we'll start preparing. You don't want to get too far ahead, because obviously we're trying to get just the basics in place now. And before we think about losing players for AFCON, we want to get those players going at the moment. But I think soon, for sure, we have to start seeing preparation, that forward thinkingness of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it would be disappointing to sort of get to the end of January and we just basically ignored all of that. Let's say it does impact us negatively, but there was no strategy there to kind of try and find a right wing back, whether, like you say, that's purchasing one or making adaptations within the team or within the squad, going, all right, we know that they're not going to be available for this amount of time. This person's going to go there. That would be disappointing. But I think, look, if all of us fans can see it, then clearly they've probably got some kind of strategy in place, I think, for that one there as well. And just very quickly, before we do wrap things up, of course, another game, thank God, another game, because these weeks are so long and boring. Without Carabao Cup games, who cares about that competition? I don't know. Who would want to win that? Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about.
We won that, and then we finished 8th the next season.
Exactly. It's not important at all. But we're going to Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. There was a bit of trepidation about a week ago because it was Dyche's first home game in the Prem with Forest. It's not Ange Postecoglou's Forest, but then they lost at the weekend. We won at the weekend, and now maybe there's not as much intimidation. And obviously, Dyche was, saying a bit of shit about Ruben, saying I could be better in charge there. I just go in 4-4-2. I'd be getting results. Is there an element of revenge there, do you think, for Ruben this weekend?
No, I mean, he probably doesn't see it that way for sure. But obviously, one of the things I've liked is the last few weeks you've been seeing posts from clubs, because teams have started to kind of do this thing on socials of taking the piss out of United, ahead of the games. And now it's really starting to bite them and bite them back. It's
switched to Liverpool, isn't it? Everyone just takes piss out of Liverpool now. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure we'll be bringing those quotes up and things, but the fact of the matter is Forest are just bad. I mean, we can overthink it quite a bit. It's like, oh, Sean Dyche is going to come in. I don't think managers make that much of a difference. Forest are bad. I mean, I know where they finished last season, and I know they were better under Nuno, but they were not really good. They're one of these teams that, they lucked out a little bit. Chris Wood scored 20-something goals. Elanga was there scoring tons of goals. We played them last season. The only reason they scored that goal is because Elanga ran through the entire team off of a corner. It's not like they were good. It's not like they played good football at any point. I think by the numbers, they should have been like 12th or something like that.
I remember that, in terms of XG overperforming and all that kind of rubbish, wasn't it? Yeah.
Way overperforming, and now they're kind of I think they've just found where they really are as a club, which is chaos. I mean, they just buy shitloads of players and pray it works out. We've kind of seen that route before. It's like a mini Chelsea or something with lots of manager changes and lots of instability. So I think they're just not very good, and they don't have Chris Wood this weekend again. I think that's correct. Someone says there too. United should win this quite handily, to be honest. I mean, they really should. It's like, obviously anything can happen with this team and all of that, but this is one of those games, like, it's just like they just should win this. And I hope they don't approach it that way, because we've seen this intensity the last few weeks. But
well, I remember that was 2 seasons ago, wasn't it? It was quite, it's now infamous of Forest were doing their team talk, and they were talking about our players going, they don't want to fucking be here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then they cut to a shot of Christian Eriksen, who didn't look like he wanted to be there at all. And they were right, and we lost. But I agree with you. I feel like, to be fair, I felt going into the game against Brighton last weekend. It's the first time in a while that I did feel a bit like, I think we'll win today. And because I think our foundation, is much more stable than it was, 6 months ago. And I go back to the goalkeeper, but I think that is part of it, of just this. There isn't this worry that it could all go to shit in like 5 seconds. That's what the problem was before. You couldn't build anything off it. Because, you couldn't build anything off it, because it just felt like, even if we had a good opening 10, 15 minutes and we created chances and we should be 1-0 up, we immediately could concede and then completely, capitulate. That doesn't really feel like that's there at the moment. We nearly did it, I suppose, against Brighton, but we do have this ability to recover. Even against Liverpool, it went back to 1-1. We go up the other end and score. There is this element of resilience there, which I think, look, when you've been losing for like 12 months, there probably should be an element of resilience. You know what I mean? I think it is there. So I'm with you. I'm feeling confident. What score prediction are you going to go with?
2-0. 2-0. I think it'll be a little tough to score, but 2-0. I don't think we'll concede to Forest. We shouldn't be conceding in a game like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who their biggest threats would be. Well, be Gibbs White, wouldn't it? About it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would go
maybe
with
a set piece, but I'm more confident on those as well. So
I'm gonna go with a 3-1. I think we're creating chances. It'll be interesting to see what team Ruben picks, because they are still. There's always one or two that you don't expect, always, but I think he'd probably keep it pretty close to what he had against Brighton.
Well, you need forwards, because he knows they're going to play against a deep block, like he mentioned that in his press conference. So you're going to need the forwards. So I doubt he's going to take someone like Ahmad off, because you need those extra attackers to break down a block like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe at the back, but Maguire's not available. Leach is not available. Maybe you could say we'll put Mazraoui in to deal with maybe some counters, because he's got a little more open space running than Luke Shaw or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any changes, to be honest.
No, because I agree. I don't know if it really requires it. I'm not sure if it really requires it. And like you said, if you watched Forest enough this season, they're just quite bad. You know what I mean? They are quite bad. They're a bit like West Ham in that regard, where you watch them and you just go, they're not good. Yeah. they're not good. And
even if we don't know how any Premier League game is all it is. It's just any Premier League game. There's good enough players to hurt you once in a while. But there's nothing really special to say like, oh, well, that's why Forest are going to beat us. There's nothing to say. It's just play a good game,
Play a good game, win. It's the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer team talk. You know what I mean? Go out there and enjoy yourself. Have fun. run hard.
Exactly.
You know, that's what we're looking for. So there you go, guys. Another episode of Trafford Talk for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to show love to James from the Muppeteers. The link is in the video description below to his channel. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. What's the road to now? What's the next subscriber milestone for you?
We're a bit above 33, so we'll go for 50. We'll say 50 is the next big one we want to get to.
50 is the next one. Yeah, exactly. And then we'll be halfway to a silver plaque. You know, that's what you got to be looking for. That's what you got to be looking for. The silver plaque. Yes. We'll be back same time tomorrow morning. We're back same time next week as well, 7 p.m. Thursday for another episode of Trafford Talk. And hopefully it'll be more positivity. 4 consecutive Premier League victories. By that point, I think we probably will know if Ruben and Brian and Mbeumo have won Player and Manager of the Month. So we'll have plenty to celebrate. It's a good time right now. We won't be angry at each other for another week. I'm sure we'll have nothing to talk about. It'll be totally fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Anyway, guys, have a good Thursday evening. We'll be back same time next week. Rather. Peace.